Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Trending. Today's show is sponsored by the brand new range of Ickonic coffee, which is available in both grounded and whole beans. Head over to shop.ickonic.com and use the code TRENDING for 10% off. All the proceeds will go towards supporting what we're trying to do here at Ickonic. How you doing, Richard, mate?
I'm good, mate. I'm all good this morning. How are you?
I'm not too bad, mate. The world is as mad as it was yesterday, and almost certainly not quite as mad as it will be tomorrow. What's your your opening story, your trending story?
Well, just when you think Yogi Bear and his orange mate can't get any worse, and they've done some horrific things the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks, but the gloating is absurd, and this is disgusting as far as I'm concerned. And the fact that these the Trump supporters are, backing this and covering up for this. Netanyahu gives Trump golden pager to celebrate attack on Hezbollah. Now, on the surface, that's just rude, crude, and childish. But when you realise that 2 children died in these blasts, and many, many other innocent civilians were injured, but 2 children died. So imagine being the parents of those 2 children sitting at home, grieving for their babies, and these 2 wallies are mocking the situation. I find these 2 absolutely disgusting, and that is just encapsulates how vile these 2 human beings, and I use that term loosely, are.
No, I saw that and I thought, okay, nothing shocks me really. I find these people repugnant, but the comments from the supporters and the MAGA lot and the lulls and the laughing emojis at this, it does blow my mind a little bit, Rich, because like you know, 2 kids died for crying out loud. This is something. You know what the Israelis did for people around the world that are unfamiliar what we're talking about. Basically, they somehow, whether I think it was through the suppliers of these pages, they managed to get access to a large number of pages that were being held by Hezbollah members, reportedly Hezbollah members in Lebanon, and they managed to initiate an explosion on all these pages. So they all exploded, blowing legs off, killing a ton of people. But there was no control over it. So it wasn't like a case, I mean, I don't like killing anyone, if I'm honest, but there wasn't any control where you go, okay, look, there he is. That's a terrorist. There he is. He's in the field. Yeah, no, go now. They didn't know where these people were. And there's all this footage of the bombs going off in shopping centers and supermarkets. Civilians are just buying, food, and suddenly they get blown to pieces. That is an act of terrorism, and it was described as such. It was described as a terrifying violation of international law, which of course Israel does all the time because they make the rules. Mm-hmm. And people need to realize when they look at this as well is, Israel basically invented modern terrorism. You look into the Stern Gang, you look into the Ergun, the blowing up of the King David Hotel in Jerusalem that killed a lot of British servicemen, by the way. And then actually, when you apply, the kind of idea of the false flag and all that sort of stuff to October 7th and what really went on, when they blew up the King David Hotel, they were doing it so they could try and blame it on the Egyptians, so that the British would go for Egypt. By deception, they'll wage war and all that. But the idea of it, I'm with you, Rich. I just think it's so wrong to mock and laugh at the death of civilians. And Trump even said that was a great operation. Well, blowing up people, is that great? Is it, Donny? Honestly, it's extraordinary, Rich.
It's utterly disgusting, and anyone who's still supporting this fellow who sits there with his hands pointing down because he's part of the cult and he's doing what his daddy tells him, I don't know what else you need to find out about the nature of this. And I again stress the loose-term man. Benjamin Netanyahu reportedly gave Donald Trump a golden pager, which is significant when you're looking at the golden age symbology, in a symbolic reference to the covert operation that turned Hezbollah devices into lethal explosions. And this was done years in advance for a company. And that's how far they work in advance, but they can't make sure that they're not anywhere near children. That was a great operation, as you just said. The US president responded, according to Israel's Channel 12 News. Mr. Trump then gave the Israeli Prime Minister a photo of the 2 of them from the latter's US visit with the inscription, "To Bibi, a great leader." And what he means by that is a great leader of him, because this is this Chabad cult and this is this messianic lunacy and nonsense. These are the terrorists, clearly. without a shadow of a doubt. And celebrating that when 2 innocent little babies died, and I still don't understand how anyone's supporting this fella. It blows my mind, without a pun, and it's disgusting. And these two people, if we are supporting these types of people in the positions they are, you really need to have a good look in the mirror. That is childish beyond anything I've ever really heard.
Yeah, it's very strange. And moving on, what the next story is kind of related to that. Obviously, Trump's plan for Gaza is to basically take over Gaza long term, expel the Palestinians into Jordan, into Egypt. Obviously, the real truth behind that is then it just becomes Israel, because that's what it's about. It's about the Greater Israel Project, and it always has been. However, Russia have opposed Trump's Gaza plan. Russia blasted Donald Trump's Gaza takeover plan, calling it a manifestation of Western cancel culture. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov accused the West of erasing UN-backed decisions on Palestinian statehood to push its own agenda. Now, on the face of it, you go, well, good, someone's opposing, Trump's Israel first lunacy. That's a good thing. And I just thought about it. I thought, the sheer freaking arrogance of it. The arrogance of it. The only people that should be in charge of what happens on Palestinian land are the Palestinians. And yet here we've got a situation where Trump's just going, oh yeah, the US is going to take over. It's not your land, mate. And then Russia is saying, oh no, they can't do that. Again, it's not your place. It's not your land. The sheer arrogance of it is extraordinary. Now, what is crazy to me is the support for it from people that are generally have been anti-establishment, anti-conquest, anti-imperialistic and all this kind of stuff. Now they're suddenly thinking it's hilarious. I'm seeing lots of things saying, what is it, like Mara Gaza? How funny is that? And Magaza instead of MAGA. And there's all these AI mock-ups of Trump Towers being built on the beach in Gaza, and they're cheering it on. This is a theft of land. It's not yours to take, mate. And the other thing, which is extraordinary, is Trump was elected off the back of no foreign wars. We should learn from Iraq. We should learn from Afghanistan, these wars of conquest. And he gets elected off the back of that, and now he's talking about, we're going to take over this area of the Middle East. Do you not think there's going to be any pushback? Do you not think Arab states are not going to fight back against that, which means you're going to have American troops on the ground in Gaza? It's just another foreign war. It's another foreign occupation, something he got elected off the back of saying we need to focus on America. And since he's got elected, he's done nothing of the sort. It is extraordinary to me. And
Yeah.
I don't understand what's wrong with these people. I genuinely don't. And they'll comment in this, having a go at me and all this sort of stuff with, you're black-pilled. Would you? And the argument, all I'm hearing is, so Harris would have been better then. No, because it's a one-party state. And you used to believe that. That used to be common knowledge. Doesn't matter who you vote for, government gets in. Left, right, two cheeks of the same arse. That was common knowledge. Now all of a sudden, this guy has hoodwinked the hell out of everyone. And honestly, mate, it's so frustrating to watch.
Yeah, I think, Gaz, the real issue is they've hoodwinked themselves. They know full well, because you would have to be, someone with a severe learning difficulty not to understand the fact that what you're saying is true. They've hoodwinked themselves. They've put all their stuff again for the second time on this bandwagon, and they can't afford for it not to be right. It's like betting on a horse. They've got to go through to the end with it now. This guy could not be more blatant with what he's doing for Israel. He serves Israel. The US serves Israel. The UK serves Israel. It has done for a long time. And those guys serve a messianic agenda, which Gaza was always one of the, if not the main target to ethnically cleanse. And that's exactly obviously what it is. And as you say, the sheer arrogance of thinking that that's your decision to make. It's so bizarre that people are going along with this in this great Israel project. And most of them haven't got a clue where this is leading. They don't understand what the Greater Israel Project is. They don't understand what this messianic agenda is. They don't understand where Medina is and when that gets sacked, as we discussed yesterday. They don't understand any of this stuff. They don't understand that there's different factions within the Jewish faith that do and don't agree with these prophecies and the way in which they're going about it. They have no idea. And that brings us to the story that I'm going to come to later in this deep research. AI. These people do not look into anything in any way, shape, or form. Even to the point where it comes to, Trump's not funding the WHO anymore, World Health Organization. But when you just a tiny bit of research will tell you that Jill Biden's signed a 5-year funding to Gavi, so it makes absolutely no difference at all. 2 minutes research. And this is the point. The laziness, I think, winds me up more than anything, because this is not hard things to pick apart. It takes
No,
2
but people
minutes
don't want to know, Rich. I think that's part of it as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I joke about the hopium being a hell of a drug. It's that whole thing, and I've used this analogy so many times. It's like if you go out on a night out and you see one of your mates' wives there and she's getting off with another bloke, and you go, oh my God. And you tell your mate, by the way, mate, he is not going to be happy to hear that. He is not going to be like, oh, mate, thanks so much for telling me. I really appreciate that. He's going to turn on you. He's going to go, oh, yeah, you would say that. You're always jealous of our relationship. And that is exactly what is happening now. When you're pointing out what Trump's doing, his supporters, is like telling them that their wife is having an affair. And they're angry. And they're angry at you rather than the man they should be angry at, the man that hoodwinked them. And like you made the point, for a second time. It's extraordinary. Right, Rich, moving on then. Well, you've just spoken about it, haven't you? This open AI and deep research.
Yep. So OpenAI, this whole thing came out about this DeepSeek, and I'm doing an episode on Classified this week about this and about the funding between the US and China. There is no AI race. There is no space race. There is no Chinese versus the US AI race. They work together. This DeepSeek came through an affiliation with the CCP through the universities in the same way that they do in the US with these Yale type universities in the UK, Oxford and Cambridge. They deep seek and look for intelligence assets even. And so this next thing's AI, they've panicked, Open AI, I believe it is, and they've got this deep research thing. And basically all it is you give it a topic and you tell it to go, off you go find out about that, bring it back. And instead of taking yourself 10 hours to do the research that you need to do, it brings it back in 5 minutes, all these charts and all of this research. But then you need to obviously check it. But then they're going, well, you won't check it, will you? Because it's, you've got to trust the AI. It's absolutely absurd that you would hand over your understanding of something to the thing you're trying to research in the first place. It's utterly absurd. And so that's what this system is. And they're crowing about it because it's speed and, as we mentioned before, convenience. But what they do is when it gets it wrong, and then how you're supposed to check it's getting it wrong, because you just send another AI bot to check that AI bot, and you're in a circle jerk of AI bots going around in circle, is that you would be looking at that going, how am I supposed to check that? And when they get it wrong and it gets caught, they call it hallucinating, Gaz. They don't call it lying or misinformation. They call it hallucinating.
Is that what they call it when the AI gets it wrong? Hallucinating.
Yeah, hallucinating. It hallucinated. It's just absurd. But
AI
people
is
are
terrifying.
absolutely they're lapping it up. What's terrifying, guys, isn't so much the technology to me. It's people like the Trump guys in their same cognitive dissonance who are willing to lap it up and jump on the bandwagon and try and grift a few quid off the back of it, who are unwilling to question anything and go along with it. When you watch YouTube with your kids and the adverts come on, they're AI adverts. Like not just the people in there, but promoting AI to children. Yeah. It's your best friend. You can have this on and you just chat to it like it's your mate. It's as opposed to the mates that are around you. So this deep research is just another version of that. But this is the first one that they've released that literally goes and does you a research type paper and brings it back to you. But then you've got to check it.
So it's just another way of controlling the narrative, isn't it, Rich? Yes. Because this is the thing that people need to understand, that if you're gonna basically control the result of a sporting fixture, it's no good just controlling one side. You need to control both sides. And so when people say, "Oh, so Harris would have been better, would she?" Well, no, because they control Harris in the same way they control Trump. As much as you believe he's independent, he's not. And the same will be with AI. So you go, okay, right, the mainstream media is bought and paid for Okay, so they're gonna parrot the state narrative to everyone. So you're going to have a portion of society that still relies on the BBC, although a lesser portion nowadays. So they're going to get their narrative from the BBC, which we control, and then there's going to be other people that are actually going to try and look into it and do a bit of their own research. Well, people have got busy lives, Rich. People don't have the time to dedicate to like, say, someone like my dad, to 35 years of looking into certain things. I haven't got 35 years, mate. I haven't even got 35 minutes. I need to pick up the kids from school. Oh, okay, well, there's some AI here. Oh, I'll do that. Let me just put the research in. That's weird, isn't it? Because the AI research just told me exactly what the BBC just told me. That's weird, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is weird, yeah. Because it controls both sides, mate.
And even deeper, for want of a better term than that, when you look at this government-controlled AI, big tech AI is bad, and it is, of course it is. But we've got this open source AI that people have contributed to, and people around the world have contributed to. It's basically just made you do the work for free, you numpties, and hand it over to the government. Yeah. And basically, so you've created the other version of it based on, and where's all that research being done? Through the US and through China, who co-work on, I think it's 42 or 46,000 papers between the universities and share students across the board, because they collaborate. And even the US Congress, as I cover in my video this week, are concerned about this. The lower levels, obviously, are concerned about this. The fact is, these universities are also connected to the CCP. So you're looking at the social credit system coming over here to the West. The whole thing is controlled. You really need to understand the only independence you're going to have is using your own cognitive common sense against this stuff.
Yeah. Well, until Elon puts a chip in your head, and then you got no chance.
There.
I mean,
exactly.
It is funny to me, really, that people can't see this at the moment. I mean, this AI, I mean, Google, you spoke about yesterday in the story yesterday, Google have basically said, oh, it's okay, yeah, we'll allow AI to be used, as a weapon now. We didn't like that before, but now it's fine. And the fact the Israeli military were using AI to kill Palestinians for the last 18 months. This AI is a real dark thing. And for all those, Trump and Musk fanboys and girls out there, Musk said in his own words, it could be the end of humanity. And he's for once, he's not lying.
No, he isn't. We can check that with AI. But also, just like to add to that, Gaz, quickly, is that the only way that was actually operable of what they were doing with AI in the Middle East and to all these Gaza and all these children there was because of Starlink and because of Google Cloud, because they're part of it.
Yeah, Google provided which is what's so funny, because the story yesterday we were talking about is the fact that Google comes out and says, right, we're no longer going to allow AI to be used as a weapon. You've just been providing it to the Israelis for 18 months to be used as a weapon. So
that's what it is.
It's just, well, yeah, it is. It's a weapon against humanity.
You're telling me, like, you're not going to use a gun as a weapon. I'm just going to use it to hammer nails into my sideboard. It's a weapon. That's what it is. Absolutely.
Right. Financial Times, Rich. Hottest January on record. Shocks scientists. Utter nonsense. Right. Moving on. So the final story today. Dog treats made from lab-grown chicken have gone on sale in the UK. Pet retailer.
Every time I hear that, Gaz, I feel Alan Partridge and these 12-foot chickens.
Yeah. And they're frightened. They don't know why they're so big. Well, because they're on lab-grown meat, probably. So dog treats are now. It's now allowed in the UK. The meat in these treats is synthetic, lab-grown. Now this obviously is part of an agenda. We know that, and these agendas get rolled out. Bang, bang, bang. They'll pick a point in time and go, right, you ready? Everyone ready? Yeah, press go. So yesterday, the EU, now we're supposed to believe that the EU and the UK are enemies, and, no, they're not when you go high enough up. The European Commission has approved the use of mealworm larvae. Oh, it sounds yummy. Mealworm larvae flour in a range of food products, including cheese, jams, pasta, and bread, provided the insects have been treated with UV radiation. Oh, okay. So not only are you eating bugs, sunshine, but we've made sure that we've radiated it first. Oh, mate, thanks, mate. That sounds delicious.
Some radioactive bugs for you there.
Mate, that it sounds like a Nickelodeon series, doesn't it? Radioactive bugs.
Yeah. Have you
Now,
ever seen
obviously,
Spider-Man?
it's all part of Agenda 2030. It's all part of what was meant to be the CAN bill, which has now been kicked down the road to July here in the UK, the Climate and Nature Bill, where they openly say we don't want people eating meat and we don't want people eating dairy. Period. Full stop. Within the CAN bill, there was, basically rations that made like World War II rations look generous in terms of how much butter maybe you were allowed for a period of time. But then in the end, like it's none. So you've got, cult assets, people like Bill Gates, that whenever his lips move, he's telling you what the plan is. He's heavily, heavily invested in these synthetic meat labs. Now, he's openly said that actually we're not going to stop people eating meat by basically asking them to be vegetarian, right? Now, he's right in that sense. So you're going to make them then. Now, if they were to come to your house with a gun and say, stick all your meat in this bag, we're going to take it down the incinerator, there would be some pushback from the population that would go, no, hang on a minute, I like a steak, I paid for that, you're having a laugh, son. So what they do is by using the attack on the farmers, which they've done across Europe, across the EU, across America, and particularly across the UK, and particularly since Chairman Starmer's come into power, they're attacking the food supply. So what they're doing by that is they're taking away the option and they're going to drive prices. So people, I don't want to not eat meat. I like meat, but I can't afford it. And then you've got someone like Bill Gates, bearing in mind he's all about sustainability. He's all about lab-grown meat. That's the future. Well, why is he buying up all this farmland then? Why is he buying up all these ranches across the United States? All these cattle ranches that makes him now the largest independent farmland owner in the United States. That doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that? If someone makes all their money from wind turbines and they suddenly start buying coal mines, you would say to yourself, well, I think he's going to drive it into the ground and knock it down. Well, yeah, he is. And that applies to the farmland ownership of Bill Gates. It's really extraordinary to me that they are now being so emboldened with it that actually, and I think you'll find supermarkets getting on board with it, where actually what you'll see is the lab-grown meat section gets bigger and it gets bigger, and the meat section gets smaller and smaller and smaller, to the point where actually, as Bill Gates says, we can't ask people to be vegetarian. No, you give them no choice. You basically go to the supermarket to buy something. Well, it's not there, or there's very little of it there. So then people start to then move towards that. You normalize eating bugs and all that stuff. If you'd have said to someone 20 years ago, oh, by the way, do you fancy some mealworm larvae in your Wensleydale? They'd have, what are you talking about, mate? Whereas now, go 5 years from now, yeah, it's all right. Just tastes like normal. And that's what they're doing. They're normalizing it. And then obviously in the end, you're going to end up in a situation where that little small section of meat that's left, you will have to, use your social credit score to access it. And people think that's far-fetched, but that's exactly what it will be. Boop, I want a steak. Boop. Oh, no, computer says, no, you had a steak last week, mate. Sorry. Honestly, they're moving forward, Rich, pretty quick now, mate.
Yeah, there's also another esoteric understanding of souls from animals in you when you look into the Kabbalah, of taking on the soul of that animal that you consume. So have a look into that, because that's very much part of what they're trying to sell you in the vegetarian whole push that we saw, this whole vegan vegetarian thing maybe about 10 years ago when it was all the rage. But obviously that how they're going to physically affect human beings. People are getting ill. People are getting ill, but they're not just getting ill. They're finding it harder to get over illnesses. And I've seen this the last 4 years across the board. Everything is taking longer to recover from. And that is a major, major part of it. It's the same sort of principle of when the US Army were completely jabbed to hell. They're so weak. And they're weakening the human race, literally physically, over time, and that's going to pass on through the genetics to your children and your children's children. And that is the way that they want a weaker race of humans to be able to control. When you're tired, when you're knackered, when you've eaten poorly, trust me, from someone who's got an esophagus problem, when you don't eat properly, your brain goes. You're scrambled. The last thing you want to do is look for a research paper on some AI things. It's a whole attack on the wellness of being a human being, and they know this. Do you think they're eating slop and AI radiated bugs? Of course they're not.
Exactly, Rich. You're absolutely right, mate. Just looking at the menu that was leaked when Bill Gates came and met with the Prime Minister here in the UK. I mean, they're eating pan-fried venison and all this, scallops and all this fancy grub, while he's saying, everyone needs to be eating synthetic meat. I would ask the question, what is in this synthetic meat? Almost certainly mRNA for one, but it's one of those things. Now, I was a vegetarian for 9 years, right? My wife is still vegetarian now. Goodness knows how many years she's been vegetarian. I respect that. Like, if you want to be vegetarian, and that's fine. Like, I don't have a problem with vegetarian. I don't have a problem with veganism. Like, whatever, do what you like. It's looking at the people that are promoting it. Bill Gates is not a good guy. Bill Gates is not your friend. Jeff Bezos is not a good guy. He's not your friend. The people that are telling you how you have to live your lives don't have your best interests at heart. These are people that believe that there's too many humans on the planet and that we need to bring down the population. You are the carbon they seek to reduce. And so even if you are a vegetarian or a vegan, or even one of these militant vegans, right, who would attack people for, well, it should be like this because you shouldn't be eating meat anyway. Okay, you can have that moral position if you want to. I get it. I do get it. But ask yourself why these very, very nefarious characters are so hell-bent on getting people off of meat. Because trust me, Bill Gates does not give a toss about animal welfare. He doesn't give a toss about cows and pigs and chickens. He couldn't care less. So there's a nefarious reason for why they want us off of this stuff, mate.
Yeah, it's to lock you out as well. I think we've looked back many, many years ago when we started researching this stuff. And your dad's obviously been covering this for years, where you have these blocks of places where you live, but there's this outside corridors. And within these corridors is where basically none of that food is going to exist. You would live off the land in those corridors. But if all of these farms are completely destroyed, there's nothing to do outside Eden. They bung you outside Eden, you get locked out of their Garden of Eden, and you're living in these corridors like Brave New World. You're going to have no food to eat. These farms aren't going to exist. They want everybody dependent on these smart cities and doing as you're told. And as absurd as that seems, look how different the world is now from 100 years ago. So imagine how different it's going to be in 100 years' time. And when your kids are 5 or 6, they may still be here, if you're lucky, and they're lucky enough, in 80 years' time. This is happening quick.
Very, 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 very quick, Richard. Absolutely. And that's why no is the strongest word in the English language. And it's something we need to use more and more. People say, what are the solutions? Where's the solutions? They say you're offering no solutions. It's like, well, yeah, but you're kind of outsourcing your solutions and you're thinking to people like Donald Trump, and to the Reform Party. When actually
and AI.
The answer is from within us. We just say no, we don't have it. We don't accept it. As simple as that. Right, so that's us today, Rich. I've enjoyed our conversation, mate. As much as this dark subject matter, sometimes it's just nice just to vocalize it, isn't it? And just talk to people at home about this and just say, look, this is what's going on, but we don't need to put up with it. We don't need to accept it. Not at all, mate.
It doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way.
No, absolutely not. So thank you for everyone at home for watching. Really appreciate your support with our new trending show and with Ickonic in general. If you want to head over to shop.ickonic.com, you can get some of our new Ickonic coffee. Give it a try, see what you think. Use the code TRENDING, you get 10% off that. And as I said at the top of the show, any proceeds we get from that comes back into Ickonic, and we use it to try and make as many films and documentaries and series as we can. Take care of yourselves. You're back tomorrow, aren't you, Richard, with my brother Jamie? And I'll see everyone on Monday.
See you later. Take care. Goodbye.
Bye.